products that have negative reviews right under it, they actually sell faster and more often than products that have nothing but perfect 5-star reviews. I looked at that and I was like, that's weird. That's when a website's acting as a salesperson. Why do we do that? Why do we go to the negative first? Why do we need the negative to actually trigger a decision? And does that apply to human or B2B? Turns out the answer was yes.
You're listening to the B2B Revenue Executive Experience, a podcast dedicated to helping executives train their sales and marketing teams to optimize growth. Whether you're looking for techniques and strategies or tools and resources, you've come to the right place. Let's accelerate your growth in 3, 2, 1.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the B2B Revenue Executive Experience. I'm your host, Cory, and today I'm talking with Todd Caponi. Now, Todd Caponi is an impressive man, and like all impressive men, he has a long bio, so strap in. He's a seasoned C-level sales leader, an author, a sales historian, one of 400 active certified speaking professionals in the world, and the founder of the Sales Melon. He's also the chief sales historian and nerd at the Sales History Podcast. Now, before all of this, he held several roles, including VP of Worldwide Sales at Right Hemisphere, CRO at Power Reviews, and several leadership positions at Salesforce Marketing Cloud, contributing to company growth, IPOs, and exits valued at $3 billion. He's also the author of The Transparency Sale, ranked by Book Authority as the 6th best sales book of all time, and The Transparent Sales Leader, a multi-award winning book. And in January, he's got a new one coming out. It's called 4 Levers to Negotiating. Todd, thanks so much for joining us. Welcome to the show.
Wow, that's I never really think about my bio, but that was pretty good. I'm glad that's working. Thank you. And thanks for having me on.
Of course. Yeah, no, I'm excited to get into it. So let's go back. Let's kind of start at the beginning, right? So you've built a reputation on really diving into the history of sales, the psychology of sales, understanding buyer behavior. What originally pulled you into looking at and analyzing how buyers make decisions?
Well, I've always been a nerd for the kind of psychology of everything. And as a salesperson, I always joke that when I was selling growing up, I was probably like a B plus salesperson. But my desires, I knew my like wheelhouse was more in leadership and teaching and coaching. I had just kind of gravitated to that. But what had happened, there was a couple of things. As far as sales history goes, I don't know what happened there. Like that was bananas. COVID hit. Just stuck here in my house. I had an old book on the shelf from the 1940s called The 5 Great Rules of Selling by Percy Whiting. And I just thought it was fascinating because 90% of it was super applicable to today. But he had referenced other books. And so I started digging in and grabbing those. And suddenly it just became this massive passion for me. The behavioral and decision science stuff, we can talk a little bit about that, but I'll try to keep this story short. My last role, I was the chief revenue officer of a company in Chicago called Power Reviews. And while you may not have heard of the company, you've experienced the technology before and not known it, meaning when you go buy something online, let's say it's a pair of Crocs or a sweater on Vineyard Vines or 1,000 other retailers and brands, and you look at the product, scroll down, there's reviews. We are the engine behind the collect and display of those reviews. Here's what happened. So I've always kind of gravitated to decision science and all that, but this was weird in that we did a research study with Northwestern University, and it was just designed to look at, all right, when a website's acting as a salesperson, what do people do? So nothing to do with B2B selling, human-to-human selling, or so I thought. We get the research back, and data and the results literally changed my life like could only happen to a nerd, meaning I quit my job and I wrote my first book, The Transparency Sale. So I'll rattle off the 3 for you, and hopefully everybody relates to this well. The data point out of the 3 that didn't surprise me or change my life is that when we're buying something we've never bought before that matters, we do research beyond the claims of the website or the salesperson, and we read reviews. All right, so no surprise there, we're all reading reviews. Here's the 2 that changed my life though. Number 1 is, at the time, over 86% of us skip the 5-star reviews and go to the 4s, 3s, 2s, and 1s first. Right? I don't know if you do that, Cory, but it's like we tend to go to the negatives first. And then the last data point was on a 5-star scale. When the product has an average review score between a 4.2 and a 4.5, and this skews higher or lower based on product category, but that is optimal for purchase conversion. In other words, products that have negative reviews right under it, they actually sell faster and more often than products that have nothing but perfect 5-star reviews. I looked at that and I was like, that's weird. That's when a website's acting as a salesperson. Why do we do that? Why do we go to the negative first? Why do we need the negative to actually trigger a decision? And does that apply to human or B2B? Turns out the answer was yes. I dug into the behavioral science on that. I was like, wait, this could work. I started going into sales engagements and teaching my team. We should be honest and transparent by revealing what we give up to be great at our core up front. Like, hey, in this situation, you might not love this, but if you're cool with that, you're going to love this, or our pricing, or whatever it happened to be. Suddenly, sales cycles sped up, win rates went up. We qualified in deals better and faster that we should be working on. We lost deals we were going to lose anyway, faster, so we got our valuable time back. And we became the cool kids, like the company that the customers wanted to deal with. And we ultimately became Chicago's fastest growing tech company from 2014 to 2017. And I was like, wait, honesty and transparency, it feels good, but it actually sells better. And in this world of the proliferation of reviews and feedback and AI and all that, I think we got to do it anyway. And so that was like the initial trigger, and started with the transparency sale. And it goes all the way to leadership through my second book, and then negotiating, same exact thing. And we can dig into that.
Yeah. Wow. And you're absolutely right. I think many of us do that. Personally, I kind of go for the middle first. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because I'm thinking like, okay, all right, everyone, a lot of the 1-star reviews, like those people have had better days. Maybe something else is going on in their lives, but the middle ones for sure. Yeah, and you want something to be wrong with it. I remember years ago, working with a consultant, and I think we had the same problem, right? We had all 5-star reviews. First thing she said was, "You got to find someone that hates this." Like,
Yeah.
what? Yeah, but absolutely right, right? You want, otherwise it just reads as false, right?
Yeah, exactly. And then you've got salespeople, like my sales team. We were out there presenting to customers. So aside from online completely, hey, we're awesome. We're great. We're perfect. And oh, the competitor, they suck. Right. And like I thought, wait, so we're presenting ourselves as a 5 and everybody else as a 1. We're actually making it harder on buyers, not easier, because we're forcing the buyer in their subconscious brain that says, hey, perfection doesn't exist. Until I understand the downside, all this positive is just right, like in one ear, out the other. I need the negative to process the positive, and it builds tremendous trust too when you can do it that way. It's got to be honest. It's got to be, I'll share a quote with you. It's my favorite sales quote of all time. It's from Arthur Dunn's 1922 book, Scientific Selling and Advertising. You're reading it, and it's like words, words, words. And then there's a page that only has one sentence on it. And that one sentence is this: if the truth won't sell it, don't sell it. Right? If the truth won't sell, it's such a powerful quote, but that's the lens. We should be truth tellers. We should be leading with setting expectation, leading transparently. It builds trust. It triggers decision cycles faster, speeds everything up, and it creates customers that not only buy, but they stay, they buy more, they advocate, they take you with them to their next companies. I'm super biased, right? Like I've never found a gold nugget in sales but transparency is pretty close.
And it sounds damn good too, right? It's got that
Yeah.
20s ring to it that I can imagine on the side of like an early cereal box. I'm thinking, oh yeah, no, I do want to eat that. I'm going to give that a try. I kind of want to come back, Todd, to something I've heard you say a couple times, which is trust and credibility. And, the story of like being out in the field and saying, hey, we're the best. Everyone else, they're the worst, right? What a great way to undermine credibility from the very start. And I was reading one of your LinkedIn posts the other day, and I was struck by it. You were talking about negotiation. And I think you said something along the lines of, why do we change personalities? Right? The personality that we sold with sometimes isn't the personality that we go into negotiation with. And I'm thinking, wow, one, you're right. Two, I can't think of a better way to then just immediately erode all of the trust I've made or built rather throughout the sales cycle. So I guess my question around that is, how did that come to be?
Well, yeah, I mean, there's a lot of historical element to it. We had talked before we hit record here a little bit about legislation throughout history. You had through the 1800s, before the progressive era of the Industrial Revolution, you had basically Wild West. You had companies that were basically just buying out competitors, undercutting competitors, monopolies everywhere. Sherman Antitrust came in. The Clayton Act was built to fill the holes the Sherman Act did. There was other legislation through the 1930s that essentially protected companies and manufacturers from the big companies by creating price floors, meaning manufacturers, hey, you're going to sell this for this, and if people don't want it, you can't undercut the competitors. And so it was called fair trade. Well, you get to the 1970s and people are like, wait, why are we protecting the manufacturers? Shouldn't we be protecting the consumers? So fair trade became free trade through the Consumer Protection Act of 1975. Suddenly, overnight, we had to learn to negotiate, right? That all of a sudden, sellers, because customers were like, what, lower for everything. Now, there was a couple of authors that kind of filled the gap at the time. And you hear things like BATNA and some of those types of terms. Those are from late 1970s, early 1980s. And really today, we're still using those same exact methods under different names, but most of it is based on what you just said, Cory, which is we go through a sales process, we're building trust, we're focused on customer outcomes, right? Like that's our goal. And then as soon as they say yes, at least at a subconscious level, we go, cool, I'm going to start lying to you now. Not going to tell you what a good deal is. And I learned all I know about negotiating from former FBI hostage negotiators. Like, what? Like that's bananas to me for so many reasons. Number one, we literally, to your point, instead of focusing on customer outcomes at the goal line, most important point, we now focus on our own outcomes. Now, in this as a service world, where there's software as a service, all this stuff, the deal is no longer the peak of the selling engagement like it was when those negotiating approaches were developed. It's an early milestone on the path to customers who buy, stay, buy more, advocate, take you with. And again, like I said around transparency, the same thing around pricing. Pricing information's out there. Like AI is exposing companies' pricing models. I don't think it's going to be sustainable anyway to have every one of your customers paying a different amount based on how well or poorly you negotiated the deal anyway. So while we've changed so much in sales through this whole proliferation of information and, because of e-commerce, because of AI, because of all that, negotiation, we're still negotiating like we did, literally. Like that's not just some biased euphemism, it's the truth. And I think there's such an opportunity for us to build trust, discount less, and actually, when we do it right, we can actually forecast more accurate too, but we can talk about that.
Hey, well, I mean, let's get into it. So let's think about it. And wow, the point you made about, we'll treat them like they're the gunman in the bank. That's how we want to
Yeah.
negotiate with our customers. That stands out.
Yeah, you don't get to tase customers and drag them to jail. So Chris Voss's book, Never Split the Difference, is fantastic. It really is a great book. However, I think through the lens of the B2B revenue executive, right? That's thinking, wait, in that instance, never split the difference theoretically is there's a bank heist. You got 10 hostages in there. You would never go in and go, hey, just go ahead and give me 5. You can go ahead and kill the other 5, right? That would be stupid. And so never split the difference means don't split the difference. Now, that's cool, but in the B2B sense, none of us are negotiating the release of hostages, peace treaties between warring nations, union labor agreements. You're not. If you are, do that. Absolutely. My book is going to get everybody killed. But if you're dealing in B2B, I think there's such an opportunity for us to build trust and not tase the customer and drag them to jail. Like you want them to buy, stay, buy more, and advocate, like I keep saying. So I think it's such an opportunity. I've been doing this approach. It was accidental starting like 17 years ago. And then we built it into each one of my organizations. And now I've been teaching and writing and speaking about it for a while. And it works, and it works in a way that should feel good and reduce the anxiety that most people have when it comes time to negotiate too.
And so maybe putting aside tasing for a second, beyond that, what are maybe 2 to 3 tactics that we do use a lot that you've seen that are outdated, that don't work, but stubbornly stick around for some reason?
Oh, yeah. I mean, well, first of all, there's so much to be said about the fake expiring discount. So you and I are recording this just before the Christmas holiday, and you see them everywhere. Black Friday. This shirt I think I probably bought on a Black Friday discount at some point. The irony about fake expiring discounts. So those discounts that are like, hey, if you can get it in this month, we'll, discount 10%. That actually ironically slows deals down and it erodes trust because now you've told the customer that the proposed price is not the price. When I say it slows things down, my analogy is I had a sweater that I loved, and I accidentally early November washed and dried it. Right? I don't know if you've ever done that, but like you're folding your clothes in the dryer, you're just like, oh, darn it, my sweater. Now it's middle of November. I went onto the website to see if the retailer had it, and they still did. But I would be a moron to buy it the middle of November because Black Friday is 2 weeks away, and I know it's going to be 40, 50, 60% off. We in the B2B world, we signal this to everybody that, hey, listen, end of month, end of quarter, we know that there's a deal to be had. There always is. You're going to offer me 10, 20% off. So I'm going to wait because I know I can get more at that point. And the ironic thing is if I'm not ready to buy by the end of the month, I can get it again because all I have to do is wait for an end of month, end of quarter again, because that is the price that is now in my head. We have reacred at the discounted price. I think that's a crazy way to live. There's so much more there, but I will share one other thing here. I'm holding a book from 1910. This is a book by a guy named Thomas Herbert Russell. Its book is called Salesmanship, Theory, and Practice. All right, I know you won't be able to see this, Cory, but I'm going to point to it and I'll read it to you. There's 4 words in here. 1910. Those 4 words are buyers know more nowadays, right? Like, isn't that funny that, so back then, the rise of mail order catalogs, I've got a 1908 Sears Roebuck catalog down there that's like Amazon, but in paper form. And the rise of advertising meant they were worried that salespeople wouldn't be needed anymore because of buyers know more nowadays. And the opposite happened, right? That we continue to grow. You go through e-commerce, buyers know more nowadays. Forrester in 2015 was saying 1 million B2B sales jobs would go away by 2020. The opposite happened. AI, you're already hearing it. We're already seeing people go, wait, AI is not actually replacing salespeople. Why? Because the best salespeople are the ones that understand that buyers with more information, it's not actually any easier for them. It's actually harder. And that the greatest salespeople are the ones that are doing the homework and helping guide and navigate the buyer. Now, there's another point that I bring up here, though. Russell goes on to talk about the idea that the knowledge of buyers has increased, and they're no longer disposed to pay what is asked of them unless persuaded in their minds that the sellers regulate their prices on some sound basis. All right, what that means is you go to the grocery store, you fill up your cart, you go to the cashier, you don't ever go, hey, I have a budget issue, I need a discount. They would be like, buy less stuff, jackass, right? Like you wouldn't say I need 30-day or 60-day payment terms. Like it's because you know the price is the price based on something. And you just assume it and you go, if I want it, I got to pay that. If I don't, I don't. I think B2B, we've created a sound basis issue over the years. By definition, the word proposal does not mean the price. It means the proposed price. Like we're telling customers in a million ways through our words, our actions, that the price isn't the price and come at us. And I think there's a tremendous opportunity for us to kind of fix that in an easy, doesn't require you to be a tough guy, right? There's flexibility within what I call the 4 levers. But I think those 2 things are big issues. We do not present our prices on a sound basis. And these fake expiring discounts, they are doing more harm than good. And I wish everybody would take a step back and really think about it like the people that you are selling to. Their brains are human, so is yours. We got to figure that one out pretty quick.
Yep, I agree. And it's so fun to find those little nuggets, isn't it? What do you say, 1910 for that one?
Yes. Yep.
Wow. And in pretty much the
Yeah.
exact same language you see everywhere, and you've seen everywhere since maybe, I don't know, 2013, right? Oh God, buyers no more.
Exactly.
Okay.
Buyers no more now. Like those 4 words are classic. And it's proven to be true for the bad salespeople, like that don't view my bottom line here through transparency and through the way that we talk about negotiating too. And I'm happy to share the 4 levers and explain what that is, but is this idea that sales in the early 1900s, the originators of the modern sales profession saw the profession as being a service profession, meaning our role is to provide a service to help customers achieve optimal outcomes, to be their guide. And there was a guy in 1911, another Arthur. So that first quote was Arthur Dunn. This one's Arthur Sheldon. In his 1911 book, The Art of Selling, he's got a quote that says, "True salesmanship is the science of service. Grasp that thought firmly and never let go." That became the mantra through the 1916 World Sales Congress, where they had a big sales convention, 3,000 attendees, including a keynote from then sitting President Woodrow Wilson, which is bananas to me to think a sitting president during a world war would go speak at a sales conference. There's an episode of the Sales History podcast that talks about the 4 lessons and why he wanted to do that. This is a long way of saying this. We as human beings don't buy when we are convinced. We buy when we can predict. That should be the role, service, through helping buyers predict, help them see things that maybe they never thought possible. Yes, absolutely. But our role was to be a guide. And that's the salespeople that keep surviving buyers no more nowadays are the ones that see it that way. And the ones that fall off are the ones that still are convincing, persuading. And our role is to jam the deal down somebody's throats. I don't think that's long for this world, but it's cyclical.
Yep, absolutely. And I do want to get into the 4 levers. But first I'm curious because the first example hit so hard with me. Like the phony discounting, of course, we all see it coming. And then it also like feels bad if I'm, here I am sitting in mid-January and I really need the thing now. Oh, I got to wait till March to get it.
Mhm.
So I'm curious, what is another one you could share with us of something that's widespread that is so ingrained we don't even see it anymore, but it's actually a big problem?
Gosh, there's so many. I actually just did an interview with somebody where I shared 7 of them because there's so many things that we just continue to do wrong. One of the ones that drives me a little bananas, because your leaders that listen to this might think this is crazy, but I don't believe that discounting in exchange for a company or a customer doing a case study is a good idea. All right, like I think that's crazy. Now, most people are like, Todd, you're overthinking it. But imagine you are having a contractor come in and like redo your kitchen or whatever. You're going to have a big project done. You're going to be out of the house. You're doing a full evaluation. This is going to be big money. And you're evaluating, you read reviews for this contractors, all of them. And you're like, wow, this is what's really good. These guys are great. They got little case studies. Oh, wow. Perfect. Awesome. And I'm choosing that one. And then right at the goal line, like right as you're about to sign, you find out that that contractor paid to have all of those people do those case studies. Now, would that erode your trust in the case studies that were used to influence your decision or make you more confident? Of course, it would erode. Now, in the B2B world, I hear this all the time, that we're going through, a buyer's gone through a big evaluation. They've checked case studies. They've talked to references. They've read about you. They do all this stuff. And then we're negotiating, hey, we need 10% off. All right, we go back and forth. And then they're like, listen, if you're willing to give us a case study, we're willing to discount you 10%. Aren't we telling the customer, because 10% on a discount is literally taking money out of our wallet, putting it and going, what am I paying for? I'm buying a case study from you. Now, aren't we saying the same thing that all those other case studies were paid for? I think so, to at least a subconscious level. I think you earn your case studies. You don't pay for them. So I would just earn them. Tell the customer you'll earn them. That's what they're supposed to be for, to be an aid and a service to potential future buyers. But it's got to be based again on what Arthur Dunn said. If the truth won't sell it, don't sell it. Stop paying for your case studies.
That's a good one. That's also a good one. Oh, wow. Okay. I want to hear all 7, but I don't want to spend the entire time.
I'll give you one more that because it's another one that I think is a big one. It's this idea of, I read that quote from Thomas Herbert Russell that ended with a sound basis, meaning if we don't believe that a price is based on anything sound, we're coming for it. Now, we think that we're doing that. Many leaders think, I think we're doing a good job. We give them the price and like, that's it. But here's a big mistake I'm seeing all the time. Almost every company I deal with does this. So let's say we're doing a deal, Cory, and I propose whatever it is, and I propose upfront payments, net 30 payment terms. So net 30 meaning from invoice, you got 30 days to pay it. Customer says, hey, listen, our standard pricing terms are net 60. What do you do? Well, here's the mistake I see all the time. Companies going, who cares? You know what? Let's tell them we'll do net 45. And all of a sudden, they now have net 45 pricing terms instead of net 60 because, hey, it's really no harm. Like, who cares? Well, I would argue that is like finding money under a rock, where you're walking along, you stumble, you see a rock, and you're like, there's money down here. Where else could there be money? Right? And suddenly your walk slowed down and you don't care about it's raining and it's cold. You're like, hey, that was too easy. I just stumbled on that. What else can I ask for? I believe that the minute we give away anything for free is the minute that you're telling your customers there's more to be had and that you've slowed down your deal. You've eroded trust not only in your pricing, but you've eroded the value of your deal. Even if it's just 15 days of pricing terms, that freebie was so easy. All they did was ask, what else should I be asking for? Prepare for the onslaught. Again, establish a sound basis around the 4 levers and use those up, down. You don't have to be a jerk, but use those flexibility within them to end up with customers that are buying faster and your deal values go up too.
Okay. Now, I'm not a sales leader, I'm a marketing leader. But if I put on my fake sales leader hat right now, I'm thinking, I might say, Todd, it's 15 days. We closed the deal. We got it done quickly. We're moving on to the next one. What's the consequence? What's going to actually be the harm that I'm going to see from this? What would you say to that?
Why don't I lay on the 4 levers for you? I'll teach you what they are, and then we'll go through a couple of scenarios quickly. So what had happened was, like we had talked about at the beginning, I was a decent sales guy, but I always sucked at negotiating. I always knew leadership was my thing. I bought a sales training company back in 2003, ran it into the ground by the end of 2005, went into a Silicon Valley startup running operations, and then I get promoted. And I'm all of a sudden SVP of sales. I still sucked at negotiating. It did not mean that I fixed that problem. I get into the role. I've got a rep who's working on a large deal down in Houston with a big oil services company at $2.5 million a year, each year for 3 years. The customer says, yes, we want to go with you. But they call my rep and they're like, hey, listen, we need to talk through the terms. And my rep was like, I got to call my manager. People at the oil services company were like, hey, get this manager in a room. Like, let's get this thing done. We don't want to be going telephone game here. Like, all right. So I go down to Houston, check in. We go into the conference room. They brought their whole procurement team, right? They're ready to kick my butt. And again, I sucked at this. These are professional negotiators. And I'm like, I'm about to get destroyed. But the funny thing is, I was just fresh off of a conversation with my CFO where we were just talking about the levers that drive the business of every for-profit business. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to buy some time and I'm going to share those as maybe some kind of guide or make myself sound smart. I don't even know. I went to the whiteboard and I asked, can I write these 4 things down? They're like, whatever, dude, have fun. These 4 things are the things that drive our pricing model. They also drive our business. They also drive your business. Like if you're in B2B for-profit, these are the same 4. All right. And so here they are. Number 1 is volume. So how much stuff they buy, right? You want them to commit to buying more stuff versus less. Products, services, technology, hours, locations, whatever it is you're selling, more, better. And you probably reward your customers for larger commitments of volume. Number 2 is the timing of cash. So how fast you pay. In other words, you want customers to pay faster, not slower, right? Slower payments, you probably penalize the customer in some way, like monthly billing versus annual, right? Number 3 is the length of commitment or how long they commit to your products, technology, and services. Longer, better, shorter, not as good. And then number 4 is the timing of the deal or predictability. right? Organizations have a need to predict. They've got investors. They've got to resource the deals. They've got to understand what's coming so they can be prepared for it. There's value in prediction. So I wrote those 4 things down: volume, timing of cash, length of commitment, timing of the deal. They immediately were like, fascinating. Like they could not care less about what I wrote. And they went into a talk about budget issues and the fact that they're ready to move forward, but they needed 35% off. What do you do? Well, many would say, like, talk about value and compared to what? And like, shut up. Like that ship has sailed. If you're talking about your ROI now, you lost. Number 2 is the traditional way that most companies do, which is, I call it the ping pong approach, but it's basically, hey, I can't do 35%, but I can do 10%. I don't even have to ask my manager. And we go back and forth until we end up somewhere in the middle, get the deal, and hey, but we just contributed 18% of the deal in the form of charity to the customer's bottom line. Like, don't do that. Number 3 was my accidental way, which was, hey, remember those 4 things I went through? Maybe we can use those as a path to get you there. Number 1, volume. Like, this is one division at this oil services company. You got 2 others that are looking at us. If you're willing to accelerate, make this deal bigger, we would pay you in the form of a discount to do that. So more volume. Hey, you're paying upfront annual net 30 for 3 years. We'd prefer not to go get another round of funding. Maybe you could fund us. Pay for year 2 and year 3 now. We'll pay you in the form of a discount to do that. You're committed to 3 years? Cool. Commit to 4, commit to 5, value, we'll pay you for. Number 4, timing of the deal. If you're willing to help us predict. So it's not the fake expiring discount. This is, if you can predict, help us predict mutually around when you think you can get this done, we'll pay you to hold to it. And now they've got skin in the game. All right, so those are the 4 levers. All right. Now here's the funny thing, going all the way back to your question about cares about 15 days, get the deal, take it off the table, whatever, is when you create that sound basis by telling your customer, hey, here's your price, and it's based on X, Y, Z. And they say anything, hey, we need net 60, we need a termination provision, and we need to commit to less or whatever, for you to be able to walk back and go, hey, listen, our pricing is based on net 30. So you can do net 45, net 60 if you want, but we just need to move something else to make up for it. Commit to another year. Help us predict. Commit to a little more volume or more products or more services. And we'll balance it out. That's cool. Now, what did you just do? You just created a sound basis and you've given them the tools to negotiate their own deals. What's funny is, even in my own business, I propose net 30 on my own invoicing for my workshops and keynotes that I do. I've got big customers that are like, hey, our pricing's net 60. And I'm like, cool, you can, but we have to make up for it somewhere else. Because my pricing's got to be based on net 30. I trade my time for revenue. It's just my pricing model. So I could charge you more. I don't want to do that, but maybe we could do something else. 9 out of 10 times they're like, we'll just do net 30. Who cares? Like, remember, so often people are asking just to ask too. So get something for that 15 days or it'll go away anyway.
That's a great point. And it seems like in that case, there is an element of negotiation going on, right? Even if they don't take it, right? They're like, nah, okay, hand wave it. We'll go to net 30, right? It's just easier if you'll be our bank for another month, but that's fine. We'll stop there. But if you zoom out from an individual deal and you take a more, CRO perspective, how can you actually get insight into whether these tactics that we've all done, we've all heard about, we've all been involved with, whether on the seller or buyer side of things, are actually harming your business or not?
Well, I think there's so many. One of the things is just looking at your discount percentage. When one of my clients is a large client, they're new, and I was just having a call with their CRO, and we'd go through with their leadership team in preparation for a negotiation keynote / workshop I'm doing with them at their kickoff. I had just asked, what do you like average deal size, ASP, all that kind of crap. And I said, well, what percentage of your 10,000 customers do you think are paying at or near list price? And they were like, carry the 2, 0, none, right? None of them are, right? And because they're like, we're discounting our way to everything. Every deal's got massive discounts in it. And every customer's paying a different amount based on how well or poorly the negotiation went. And I'm like, you guys see that as a problem, right? It's such an opportunity. It's such an opportunity because that discount you're multiplying that by every renewal, by every upsell, by every time those people go to another company and bring you with. It's literally a race to the bottom. Like if you're discounting a lot, multiply that by the length of time the customer's going to be with you, times all of the advocacy, times AI exposing it, times them sharing with their buddies over drinks at some community thing that they're at. I just think that that's so dangerous. I mean, there's certainly other things, but the discounts are killing you. They're slowing down your deals. They're increasing your loss rates, because when it slows down, time does kill deals eventually. And I also think that we've created this hockey stick effect in quarters where CROs are downing bottles and bottles of Advil at the end of every quarter because they've created this fake expiring discount environment where we've basically taught every buyer to wait to go crush a last minute deal. I think there's an opportunity to flip that with that fourth lever through mutual alignment instead of fake motivation to get a deal done in a constrained time frame.
Absolutely. And hey, I'm convinced, and I'm thinking, okay, if I am a sales leader, CRO, and I want to roll this out, right? You've made what should be self-evident kind of smack me in the face. Absolutely, I'm on board. Hey, let's go do it. But then there's a little kind of splinter in the back of my brain, which is, well, how am I going to actually get my teams to position this with existing customers? Like how, when it's time for renewals, or when, the relationship is expanding and all of a sudden I've got to introduce a completely new way of negotiating and doing business. How do I make that transition happen?
Well, I'll say two things. Number one, your price should be your price, aligned to the four levers to anybody all the time. Doesn't matter if they're existing, if they're new, if it's the person that gets coffee for the janitor. Like hey, our price is based on how much you buy, how fast you pay, how long you commit when you sign, right? Like that's it. And I think there's an opportunity for us to start communicating that to everybody. It does not mean a change in anything. It's like, hey, hey, renewal time's coming up, and oh, things going, all right, we're cool, are we gonna go? They're great. And then they're like, hey, by the way, here's what drives our pricing model. Because at renewal, they're probably negotiating too. Why can't you go, all right, you need slower payment terms, and you need a discount? All right, cool. Like, talk to me about it. All right, great. Hey, our pricing's based on these four things. As a matter of fact, there was this guy who ran e-commerce for a massive retailer, and he hated salespeople. And so I used to, I did this when I was the CRO of Power Reviews. He hated salespeople, but he knew me. We had known each other for a while. His renewal was coming up, and this was during a period where retail was kind of getting hit. And it's funny that he called me. So I look at my phone, I'm like, I got to get this. So I get it. Like, hey, what's going on? And he's like, Todd, I'm up against it. Our renewal's coming up in 3 weeks. And you know what's going on in retail. We're paying $120,000 a year to you right now. What can you do to help me out? And I'm like, hey, how long have you known me? And he's like, is it the effing levers again? I'm like, yeah, it's the levers. And he's like, tell me what they are again. And I was like, well, hey, listen, you're at this volume. We've talked to you about some other things. And he's like, Todd, I can't spend more than 120. It's got to be less. Like, all right, cool. Just let you know. You're paying us quarterly right now. I don't know why you do that. It's not like you're a massive company. This small 120s couch cushion in your lobby money. Pay us up front, and we'll pay you in the form of a discount to do that. Renewing for a year, you're not going anywhere. Why not renew for 2 years or 3 years? We'll pay you in the form of X discount. And then timing of the deal, I can't help you. Your renewal's up the end of September. I don't know what the price will be in October. Just get it done. And he's like, got it. Hangs up, calls me back. And he's like, I got approval to pay you upfront annually instead of quarterly. And we are going to renew for 3 years. And I'm like, cool. I'll send this over to the account manager and I'll talk to you in 3 years, you jerk. I didn't say that part. But the point being that this is easy. That's part of the issue that I always had with traditional negotiating is we're teaching like, oh, he touched his nose, he's lying. Oh, I think his eye twitched. I think he looked up to the right. He's making stuff up. Like, stop it. That's crazy. This is easy. You remember 4 things and you can start communicating with everybody like this afternoon and be off and going. So it's designed to be stupid, easy, common sense, and start establishing a framework for delivering, proposing, and then ultimately negotiating your price.
Yep. I love it. I love it. I mean, I'm a little biased to a simple, scalable sales framework, let's be honest, but I love it. It aligns perfectly. I think it's great. Okay.
Well, yeah, and it's designed to at least get you to have something to fall back on.
Yep.
Right? Like, my last episode of my sales history podcast is about a guy that basically his customers asking for a discount, and he's like, I'll go get approval for it. Like, arm your reps to be able to have the conversations too. CROs, you shouldn't be approving every discount. Why not go, hey, here's the framework, here's the levers, go. And when you come to me with a deal and you tell me, hey, the deal's 10% off, you got to show me that we got more volume, faster payment, longer commitments, or predictability out of one of those, right? And you're good. You're armed to go do it. What other funny thing from history that I had just found too, there's a story of a guy talking about the fact that when he would build relationships with his customers, the better the relationship, the less discount. Meaning nice people didn't ask for discounts, so they ended up paying more than the jerks, right? The jerks that are aggressive, well, I'm not paying for this, and they'd be like, okay, here, right? Does that make any sense? That your best relationships pay more than the jerks? That's what happens in traditional anxiety-ridden negotiating. Arm your reps, off you go. 4 things you could be doing it this afternoon.
I think that's great advice to end on, or at least in this segment of the podcast on. Yeah, I think that's maybe the hardest one to overcome too, right? Because a lot of sales is about winning, or what people frame as winning. Like, oh, I'm going to do this, or I'm going to get this for better, and that means I've won over you. Like, stop trying to win over the customer. Like, you can win together, and it's so easy. I think now it's hitting me more and more how much, like you said, like we started with, that personality shifts when you get into negotiation. You're winning together until, nope, I'm going to win over you till it's a head-to-head match for some reason. But I'll
tell you, I had an argument with a client recently, and it wasn't an argument because he saw it right away, and he was like, Todd, I think you'd be impressed. We actually worked in our comp plan that if a rep is able to get a deal at above list price, they're going to get an extra %. And I was like, what? Like, no, right? Like I was like, so you're lying. Like, this just lying, rewarding lying. Imagine you get that deal. You're like, yay, we got a couple extra grand. Yay, good for us. But then it gets out.
Yep.
Like that, hey, that crushes everything instantly. Like, dude, how easy it is for us to connect to one another and to post this stuff. And the AI, like, guys, you need a sound basis, you need consistency in the way that you do all of this stuff, because it's a race to the bottom and it's happening right now before our eyes. We're seeing it. Like, we can't be negotiating through the lens of winning and lying. It's just not sustainable.
Yep, absolutely. Absolutely. Okay. Todd, as we move toward the official end of the podcast, there are 2 questions that I like to ask every guest. And the first is, if you go back maybe 5, 10, even 15 years into the past, what is one piece of career advice you would give your younger self?
All right. Well, first of all, I mean, I'm biased through transparency, right? And that is, that was such a lesson for me. I think one of the big ones is a story that happened when I first got promoted. And I was running sales ops for this company, and I got promoted to be SVP of sales, partially because the company was really struggling and I was cheap. I think that was like, hey, we'll just they got rid of their tenured sales leader. And I remember my CEO coming to me and he's like, Todd, I know you go out drinking with these guys, you're their buddies. You can't be their buddy anymore. You need to shift your personality and shift your approach, because now you're the boss. And I told him, I was like, listen, then I'm going to suck at this. I can't, I'm not anybody's boss. And I was younger than everybody I would be leading. So I went before the team, and I think I made my CEO mad at the time, but he saw how this worked. I started with a little speech that was basically, listen, I'm nobody's boss. We are still peers. We just have different responsibilities. Here's what I'm responsible for. A big part of that is helping to make sure that the road is clear for your success, right? But I need you to do some things for me to do my best work. Here's what your responsibilities are, and here's the things I'm going to do for you to do your best work. Are we cool on that? We all aligned around it? And we stayed as great buds. We grew 400% year over year, 2 years in a row, sold the business to SAP. And I was like, listen, for everybody listening, you don't have to be somebody's boss. Just align transparently around the role, the responsibilities, and you're going to find that your team will run behind you, and culture beats out a lot of warts in organizations. So that's probably the big one for me.
Yep, I think that's fantastic advice because a lot of people have these little catchphrases like, culture eats strategy for breakfast, all this stuff. And I've heard tons of them, but I haven't heard a really concise way to actually create a culture where people want to be a part of. So
Yeah.
fantastic.
Yep.
And the final one, probably the tough one of the two, is we're recording this in December of 2025. Let's look 5 years into the future. Say we're sitting here in December 2030. What is going to be our reality then that, a facet of it that not a lot of people are talking about right now?
Well, I will tell you this. When you look throughout the history of the sales profession, we have been given some incredible gifts, starting with behind me, there's a 1908 telephone, a fully restored cathedral-style phone. But the notorious AGB, Alexander Graham Bell, 1876, invents this telephone. And it revolutionized sales outreach, communications. What happened? Well, we ruined it. As salespeople, we ruined it. We turned it into the spam cannon. We needed government regulation to get in front. We needed extra technologies like caller ID and that kind of stuff. None of that has really worked, but Alexander Graham Bell would be rolling over in his grave if he knew that there was over 221 million phone numbers on the do not call registry, right? Like that's crazy. We did it again with email, starting in 1971. Incredible gift. I can send a note, hit enter, it's in their inbox, right? No longer have to rely on a postal truck and all that. What a great gift to the sales profession. We ruined it, right? We did that again. We'd started doing it with video. We're doing it with AI, right? We keep doing this over and over again, where we get these great tools, we use it for evil instead of good, and then we calm down and we start to find our groove until the next one comes along. I would argue this, that first of all, AI is not going to destroy your sales roles. I just do not see it. History tells us that over and over again. Remember the 1910 quote, 1910, buyers know more nowadays, right? The AI is going to do the same thing. And that leads me to this idea that more information never made it easier on buyers. It's made it harder. We've got to continue to see the world through the service profession. So my prediction there is we're over freaking out about AI. History tells us so. I'll give you one other thing that, because we should end the podcast on a down note. I'm just kidding. But here's something that you might freak you out. We have been repeating history. This economy looks exactly like the economy from 1914 through to 1925. We're in it right now. We're looking at about 2016 to 2025 right now, looking exactly the same, where you had slow and steady growth. You shut off the economy. So 2020 COVID shuts off the economy. 1918 World War I shuts off the economy. We come out of it, pendulum swings, and suddenly we've got high demand, low supply of salespeople. Economy takes off. You have a great resignation, right? We had that in 2021. Remember, we had it in 1919. Then what happened? A massive inflation spike. February of, I think it was 22, the inflation spike happened. And that was when I was like, uh-oh, I've seen this story before, because that happened in late 1919 and early 1920. And then we had a purging. The purge in 1921 and 1922, 77% salesperson turnover in 1921, 85% in 1922. And then you had up-down economy for another 7 years. We are experiencing that right now, right? Some days it seems like the economy's doing great. Some days we're like, what's happening? We got to keep an eye on this, because where did that culminate? 1929, Great Depression, right? I hope we're not headed that way. I don't see us headed that way, because that was caused by people not figuring out how to use credit and everything, keeping up with the Joneses. And the next thing you know, nobody's got any money to pay down the credit and everybody goes out of business. I don't see that happening, but I will tell everybody this. When we think about 2030, that kind of lines up with history. Let's keep an eye on things, but just know that the next few years will probably continue to be a roller coaster. We've experienced this over and over again.
Yep. I could go down this rabbit hole. I'm tempted. I'm going to stay high level. I swear. But I will say this because I feel compelled to comment on this. And that is, I feel like there is a collective delusion of optimism around how we are using AI to ruin outreach and to ruin the way that we kind of interact with prospective buyers right now. And I do see it in the way that, email was ruined, right? And I see the parallels, and I just find it fascinating, right? That like it seems to always happen, right? And we all get so excited
ruin
about
everything.
it.
Yep. Salespeople ruin everything, and we're ruining AI, and we got to stop that, right? And by the way, Cory, I mean, marketing played a role in ruining
Yeah.
the telephone and email too, right?
Yeah.
And
I mean, they hit us first. We were the bigger problem for sure. Yeah. I'll take that. I'll take that.
and it's always been that we've needed technologies to prevent. So, email, you've got email blacklists, spam boxes, all that kind of stuff. It didn't work. And so we needed the Can Spam Act. You got telephone. We needed technologies like caller ID, and that didn't work. We needed the do not call registry. AI, we've seen technologies already trying to identify where things are coming from AI so we can flag it and you can see it, and that ain't going to work. And then the government's going to have to get in and really mess things up. So it's going to happen again. We can all predict it.
Yep. Yeah. But hey, I think the optimism, the true optimism we can agree on is sales is going to stick around for a little while. Yep. And we just need to learn to be a little bit more credible, honest with each other, and we're going to have some pretty good business results out of it.
Exactly.
Service. All right. Well, Todd, this has been a lot of fun. It's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you again. If people want to learn more about you and want to check out the book, where should they go?
So toddcaponi.com is always a good spot. I write lots of articles just for fun, share them out there. But you can follow along on LinkedIn, or if you connect, let me know where you heard me. Love that. And then the book, 4 Levers Negotiating, is available anywhere you get your books in all formats. And if you buy it and you like it or you hate it, review it. That helps a ton.
All right. Sounds good. Thanks again.
All right. Thank you.
You've been listening to the B2B Revenue Executive Experience. To ensure that you never miss an episode, subscribe to the show in iTunes or your favorite podcast player. Thank you so much for listening. Until next time.